After 20 years of working behind the chair and interviewing amazing educators in our industry here on the Elevated Life podcast, we're finally pulling back the curtains and sharing some behind the scenes on how I got started in the beauty world and what inspired me to create a salon suite straight out of beauty school, and how I turned that salon suite into a six-figure machine without a huge following back then, because I didn't even have an Instagram when I started this whole hair career. So this episode is dedicated to all the fun stories behind the scenes on how I built this six-figure salon suite over the last 20 years and the new program that I'll be launching for stylists coming up very soon. So I'm excited to dive in because Chris has prepared some questions for me to be able to answer and go deeper into my journey of being a hairstylist.
Yeah, I mean, I really want to keep this a casual conversation because this is, I've been really lucky because I've been a part of this journey from the jump. I mean, we met while you were in beauty school, and it's funny because when I walked into beauty school the first day, I remember seeing you and looking at the other people, and you had crazy hair, everything. You had 100 piercings.
It was still pink back then.
What was different to me was that you were like your own identity. Mm-hmm. There was a Brittany, and everyone in the room knew where Brittany was and what Brittany was doing, and it was like you had this.
It's Brittany, bitch.
This aura about yourself. So you had this massive talent, but talent only takes you so far because when you're building a business, you can't just be good. There's not enough of that. Mm-hmm. So let's go back to that beginning. So you're getting out of hair school, or you're in hair school, and you're thinking, I've got to build a business. Can you take us on how that journey started and sort of like the arc of where you've been?
Well, I worked at Forever 21 and Earthbound and Aldo to save up money to go to beauty school. When I decided I was just done with the whole retail thing, I had just turned 20, and I had actually, I don't even think I was 20 yet, I was 19. And I said, I'm done working this retail stuff. I'm going to go start hair school. Like, I really want to do this. And back up from that, my parents begged me to go to college. You're so smart, you're top 5%, you have to go to college. But my mom did hair, and I don't know, I still don't know to this day. Maybe we need a hypno session. Did I do hair because mom did it and I was familiar with it? Or did I do hair because when I was about 12 or 13, I started doing my own hair because I didn't like the way that I felt about myself. And back then, that was the only way that I could control my confidence, was the way that I looked on the outside. And I guess my mom had the tools, so I had access to the scissors and the razors and the bleach and all of the stuff. So I started self-experimenting on my own hair as a form of creative expression, especially a small town country girl, growing up in less than 2,000 people. It was you kind of stood out. So for me, I made that decision very early on that I wanted to follow my own path, and I knew that I didn't want to go to college, and that I was smart, and that I loved learning. It wasn't that I was I want to do other things or fuck around. Honestly, I just love doing hair. It was really fun for me because I did my hair so much. All of my friends started asking me to do their hair. My friends' moms asked me to do their hair. Hell, I even had a girl off of MySpace contact me while I was still in high school, and she was like, "You have the coolest hair. Where do you go?" I'm like, to my bathroom. I do it myself. She's like, "Will you do my hair?" And of course I didn't charge her back then. I just did it for fun, and we are still friends to this day. She moved off to California, and it's so crazy how our paths are still connected over 20 years ago. So I made a decision very early on that I just wanted to follow what was fun for me and not the traditional college path. And I think that's how I got to beauty school. And then how did you pay for it? I worked those 3 jobs, and that inspired me to really take control of my career from beauty school.
Yeah, you mentioned 2 really big, you mentioned multiple really big things that I think are very important, especially as for hairstylists, but also entrepreneurs. Anybody who's trying to get in a game where they build everything. The beauty of the hair business is the fact that you set your schedule. If you want to be there at 6 a.m., you can be there at 6 a.m. If you want to start your schedule at noon, you can start at noon. There's so much control and power that you typically don't have in most businesses.
If you work for yourself.
If you work for yourself. So I'm curious, what made you go the route of let's have a suite versus let's do commission? Because from what I remember at the time, everybody was TG, mm-hmm. Everybody was going to all those salons, all the places where they're skimming the money off. You're showing up commission. There, and you're going into a place where there's a ladder, and you're only making a certain, as a beginner, you only make a certain amount, and then as it steps up, you make more. But What made you? I mean, that's a huge gamble and a risk, because normally you go into a place that's commissioned because they're established, people are going to know the brand, they assume that you've gotten some sort of training or education. Like, why did you say, you know what, I'm going to completely go off on my own, no expertise in running a business, no expertise in talking to clients besides the people who came to school and paid $10 for their roller sets, and then like
$7.
What I mean, so what gave you? I mean, I won't say the audacity, but like, what gave you the stones to say, like, I'm just going to risk it?
Yeah, I mean, that is exactly my answer. It was a little bit of, I'm just going to take a courageous risk. And the other half was my stubborn Libra self wanted to do both. I wanted to cut hair and color. And 20 years ago, if you worked in a high-end luxury salon like Tony and Guy or any of the ones in Dallas that were well known, you had to departmentalize. You had to either choose hair cutting or choose coloring. Now that may seem crazy, where you're like, what? People do that? And maybe they still do. I'm like out of touch with that. But I feel like I didn't want to just do one or the other. And every major salon that I went to while I was in beauty school to start like auditioning, what the hell, to like start scoping out. Literally, I was auditioning them. I didn't think of like, I hope they'll hire me. So I think I've always just been part crazy and part entrepreneur. I think it was like built into my system. Both my parents were entrepreneurs. They didn't work for anyone else. They had built both their careers. So I really didn't know anything else. So I think there was like a combination of, I didn't know any better. Part, I'm absolutely nuts and willing to just like go for it, take a risk, believe in myself. Even though like when I signed up for beauty school, I called my dad up and was like, hey, can you pay for this? He was like, no, absolutely not. I'm like, well, shit, I already signed the papers. And that's when I had quit those 3 hair jobs or the 3 retail jobs. So for me, it was like a force. It was like, well, you've got to pay for beauty school now and you've got to figure out how you're going to do that. And luckily I ran into this guy who I attracted into my life just 3 months after I started beauty school. And he's like, you need to start taking this business thing seriously. Lucky for me, meeting you, who had already run a multi 6-7 figure business, you had, and paired with your like St. Mark's private school background knowledge, like you just had this amazing business mindset. So I think my courage and like passion for doing hair and wanting to do it my way and not departmentalize, or the other real truth is they wouldn't hire me with blue bangs at this fancy salon I went to. And I thought that was absolute bullshit. So I just decided I'm done with these rules. I chose to be a hairdresser so I could make my own schedule, so I could charge my own prices, so I could get paid 100% of the profit that I am doing the service. Like, these companies and brands are not doing the service, and when they take 60% or 40%, like that is not girl math, and that just never rubbed me the right way. So a combination of meeting you, being freaking courageous and ballsy, and wanting to do it in a very authentic, like true to me kind of way. That's why I didn't go to college.
You know, I love that, because there's a spirit that it's a must-have as an entrepreneur, because if you don't have it, I mean, you're going to fall flat. You're going to like, why aren't the clients here? Like, why aren't people beating down my door? And there's a certain spirit that you show up, and it's a spirit of, I'm going to take control and I'm going to make this happen no matter what. And I think having that kind of a feeling and attitude just allows you to do so much more. And not only that, when you're someone who's in a service-based business, like a stylist, like you're literally looking across, or you're behind a person or next to them who like wants to feel your energy.
Yeah.
Like, they're not just coming there for hair. They're not just coming there for whatever.
It's therapy.
Yeah, whatever you're advertising. They're coming to be a part of something. They're coming to share things. I mean, it's just been incredible. Can you talk a little bit about your highlights of your career, how you move, like how did OMG Hairstyles really come about, and like what ended up being how that, you know, became into just this massive thing?
Yeah, highlights of the career. That's touching women, you know, but like not in the Diddy kind of way. I feel like really getting intimate time alone with women was the most peak moment of the entire 20 years, the last 2 decades, of really like getting intimate and letting those walls come down, and hearing how women think and feel about themselves has just been the biggest blessing and the biggest gift. I mean, cool, I got to like follow my passion and be creative and like paint art and all of that, and like wear what I want to wear and not go to work until noon and only take 2 or 3 clients a day and only work 3 days a week. Like, all of that was great. Like, looking back over, like having strict boundaries, learning boundaries, stopping the people pleasing. Like, there's so much to say about how I grew as a person that could be like the highest highlight and benefit, because every time you go into business for yourself, it pulls up all your shadows, your fears, your doubts, and really challenges you in a sense of self-discovery. But I think the biggest highlight, aside from maybe sharing the stage with Sam Villa and some other incredible artists and getting to teach in Zion National Park for Hair Love Retreat, like there's been some really cool accolades and things like that. But the biggest takeaway for me has always been being able to hold space, sacred space for women and how they feel, and help them transform their confidence from the inside out. I think that's what ultimately set me apart as a stylist. Like, we can all balayage and cut like 90-degree haircuts, which is great, but how do you make them feel? How do you hold space for them? How do you ask questions that get them to go deeper into their own feelings and their wants and desires and their dreams? And like, hey, how many, like, can I get a shout out for how many people I helped save them from narcissistic, toxic relationships, just listening to the red flags behind the chair and being like that sounding board of truth and saying like, hey girl, hey, like, why are you putting up with that? And it's just so incredible to see the years of transformation, not just on the outside in the hair, but from the inside, from rebuilding their confidence and reclaiming their power to asking for that six-figure raise or leaving that narcissistic relationship and rebuilding your life. Like, those are the things that I think are the highlight for me.
Yeah, you touched on something really big, and that is that this industry is something that is not easy. The
chemicals, the emotions, all of it.
The standing on your feet, the trying to avoid, especially energetic burnout, or the long hours, dealing with just all the stuff that people present to you in a safe and sacred space like that. How do you yourself deal with the burnout that comes from the passion, the drive, doing what you love? Because there's a thing where you've done too much. You can burn the candle at both ends. How do you deal with that? How do you find that balance so that not only, what you see a lot of times is people become really successful because they're ambitious, and so they kind of push everything else away, and then it ends up happening is, their health slacks or their relationship slack. How do you maintain that balance so that you can feel like, not only am I building something here that's really cool, but at the same time, like, I'm sort of honoring me?
Yeah, I feel like we have to kind of go back to the last question you asked me, like, how did OMG Hairstyles get started? Well, I got turned down for having blue bangs at one salon. I was told that I had to departmentalize at another, so I left beauty school, took my licensing test, and literally went into business for myself after that. I didn't apprentice. I didn't work under I didn't do the normal traditional path. So for me, I became an entrepreneur straight out of, literally while I was in beauty school. I was building the website with you. I was marketing on MySpace. I was trying to get my name out there. So from the beginning of hair school, I was in business as a marketer, an entrepreneur, a hairstylist, a photographer, all the things that you don't know. What is that? Like an accountant? All the things you don't know that they don't teach you in beauty school that you're going to have to step into and do for yourself, which is why a lot of people go that traditional route of I don't want to take care of the overhead. I am an artist. I don't want to deal with that. And I fully respect that. But for me, in my personal journey, it just didn't jive. So for me, I was willing to put in the 80 hours of work. You leave the 9 to 5 to do the entrepreneurship to do 80 hours. And that's essentially what it was in the beginning. It was a lot of grinding. And thank God I was in my early 20s because I had the energy and I had the passion and I had the time and space to do it. So for me, it was so much of my own marketing, getting my name out there, putting cards at people's cars on movie theaters, handing them out at the mall, which I learned was not a good marketing tactic. People found that very offensive. What do I have, bad hair? No, you're actually really pretty and I love your vibe and it's just hair I would love to do. I had to learn how to get real swift in my conversation in that marketing approach. Literally, there was no Instagram ads, there was no TikTok, there was no Reels, there was none of that. We didn't make videos in the beginning of our career. So it's just I have to take it back to you need to be reminded of the amount of work that it took even back then. Now, yes. Does it still take work? Absolutely. But is it so much easier? Yes. So you have to kind of paint the picture of how much work was going into getting clients in your chair. So not only are you spending a whole lifetime of marketing, then you actually have to do the services. And at that time, the most expensive service was hair extensions. I mean, still to this day, but we jumped on that really quick. We're how do we scale here? Because I can't just I'm not going to make $1 million doing freaking haircuts. Love you, but I'm not Jose Abair at the time. So, and charging $600. So I really like honed in on hair extensions. And because we live in Dallas, it was a lot of stripper clients. So I was up until midnight doing hair at 2 a.m. So my schedule was totally out of balance. My work life, my eating habits, literally everything was out of whack. So all of that to say, how did I balance this? Was like through burnout. I had to learn the hard way by overworking, taking clients at 2 a.m., letting them dictate the energy levels and the mood of the experience, answering text messages back and forth with no boundaries. Like, I was so burnt out that it was that paired with my mom's stroke, honestly, in 2012, that made me just like have a wake up call of like, I can't keep doing this anymore. So for me, I think it was recognizing that the routines and the rituals that I was doing or not doing were contributing to my own issue. And I think taking responsibility is the first step in how do you balance your self-care. Is like, first you gotta own and just like own up to the fact that like, ooh, I've been burning the candle at both ends. I've been saying yes when I mean no. I've been overgiving and not pouring back into myself. So I think taking responsibility is step one. I mean, you all know I'm all about orgasms and like massage and all of that, but it's really just knowing that you own your calendar, and if you don't like the energy expenditure, then you have to make a change.
Yeah, that's really important. You know, it's easy to get excited about something. I mean, you can just tell. I knew when Brit and I first got together that she was obsessed with hair. I mean, it was something she talked about nonstop.
Time out. I'll never forget one time he's on top of me looking down and he's like, what are you thinking about right now? And I'm like, if you color formulated this copper with a 7.43 and you did 20 volume in the back and da-da-da, he's like, ma'am, like, where are you? You're supposed to be here, like, enjoying this. That's when you know you're obsessed with something.
So it's great to be passionate. You need passion. You need a huge amount of passion, because there's going to be times where your mood's not that great, where you wake up one day, you don't have big energy, but you still have a business to run. You still have things that you have to do.
Still have to hold space for people going through a divorce or
and you
grief or whatever.
And it may be a time where you're going through the same thing, but you can't show up at the salon like that. This is your business. Those people don't show up to always support you, which they do. They do that.
Shout out to the ones that do, for sure.
They, you know, a lot of times, especially because you built an all-women's salon, and it's just one of those things where, you know, a lot of times women naturally support each other, especially as they go through things. But it's important to show up with that passion. And when outside of that passion, what you really have to have is that drive to take care of yourself. Because passion is such an intense double-edged sword. Yeah. It's so easy to let it hurt you. It's so easy to discount what you need for yourself.
To let the passion burn through fully, to burn out.
And the truth is, if you've been feeling burnout, you've got to look at like what you're doing outside the salon. So much about the success that happens at salon, so much about how you feel during your day, how your energy is managed, like all those things start when you wake up in the morning, what you're feeding yourself. Like, there's so many more things to it than just showing up at the salon. I'm going to move in a little different direction now. What has made, so it's been nearly 20 years. Salon's been massively successful. Was successful from the very beginning. I mean, it was amazing. Yeah. And it's just built since then. I remember a time before like the online scheduling came out where we'd be in the car. I'm like, babe, you have got to stop answering the phone in the car. I'm like, I don't even know if I talk to you anymore, because you're just constantly booking people and just being booked out for what seemed like forever. What makes you now want to come out and start to tell people about the business, how to run a business, how to be successful? I mean, does it have to do with the fact that we've been to a lot of hair retreats at this point now? Like just the amount of coaching clients from hair that you've had? Or is it something where you're like, this is just something that I need to do for me? Is it like, what makes you passionate about this part? What makes you move in this direction?
Yeah, I think there's so many reasons. This was always a part of the plan. I always wanted to educate and tell people how I did it differently, because in 2012 and 13, Chris and I changed our own lifestyle to become vegan. And so I thought, well, since I run my own business, I should change the salon to represent that integrity and authenticity as well. So, you know, in 2012, I became the first and only vegan hair salon in the Dallas area. And so, you know, for that being like the cornerstone of like always being innovative, always being ahead of the curve, on top of educating for brands like Colorproof and K18, which is like the #1 trending beauty product on TikTok right now, which is like the coolest experience to be a part of these amazing companies, being able to teach at Balanced Stylist Society retreat or Hair Love retreat or alongside Sam Villa or other educators. It's, you know, like it's always been a part of the plan, but when I first started in the education outside of the salon, I really felt drawn to teach so much on self-love, because I felt so many women sit in my chair say the same thing over and over again. Like, I don't love myself. I don't believe in myself. And so as much as I wanted to teach on hair 10 years ago and working for these amazing brands and teaching alongside these amazing educators, I just felt this deep soul calling that I needed to teach on self-love and reclaiming your power. So instead of teaching hair when it made the most sense, because I'm always being, visionary and ahead of the curve, what would have made sense back then and what probably would have made us like $1 million immediately was teaching this, how to scale your salon suite to 6 figures without the burnout. And this product that I've been sitting on for 10 years called the Sweet Life. It's all the tools and tactics that I've learned and tested and implemented and found success in these strategies. And they've been sitting in a Google Doc for almost 10 years because I was so drawn to teach on self-love. Now that self-love has its spotlight in the sun and it's having a moment, it feels like I can leave that baby, like that baby has grown to an adolescent tween and she's like gonna take care of herself. Where I feel like now, before I don't want to say leave the hair industry, because I'll always be a part of it and I'll always stay in the education world. But as I leave the service part of it behind and I say goodbye to my salon after 20 years of me physically doing the service, it only feels right to just, give the time and space to be able to teach stylists everything that I've learned over 2 decades. It's something that I know absolutely intimately, like every pore on the back of my hand, like has had chemicals in it from all the blood, sweat, and tears of really learning what it takes to be a successful stylist in your own capacity, in your own authenticity, and to make six figures if that's something that you desire. And that was not something that I really came out with at the beginning. It was like, I have to just make all this money and blah, blah, blah. Because when I look back at my career, it's not the money that excited me. It's the connections with the women and the things that I learned and who I became in the process. But I also, like Chris said, was making 6 figures from the very first year because we did some simple math. We did the math on how many days a week am I willing to work? How long am I willing to work? And let's reverse engineer that. And we came up with a really small number. You can only take at the level that I was willing to work was 160 clients. So it really wasn't a lot, especially if you think about over a 20-year period. I've had thousands of clients in the chair at this point, but when you have them on this repeating basis. So for me, it was just taking these concepts and these ideas that other people weren't talking about. Now you can find more educators giving honest truth and education through YouTube or TikTok or Instagram, whatever social platform you're on. When I was doing hair, there was beauty school and behind the chair, and maybe modern and American salon, and that was it. So I think, why do I feel called to do it now is because I think the time is right. I've gotten to teach on self-love, and I've had thousands and thousands of women go through my program, Shine School, and it's given me the opportunity to step out from behind the chair and explore more aspects of my psychic, spiritual, empowerment, coaching self. So the time is right, people are ready, and I think that paired with self-love, you cannot scale to 6 figures and hold that sustainably if you don't have a sense of self-worth, if you don't believe in yourself, if you're constantly on the edge of burnout. You will have a major life lesson show up if you don't find a way to balance that. And for me, that just goes with my Libra energy. So long-winded answer just to say, I think the time is right because my soul really wanted to teach self-love, and now that I've taught on self-love, why not be successful on top of it?
Yeah, it's amazing because there's so many points to touch on here. One is the fact that your journey has been really cool because one of the things that has always been in the shadows is you've had great mentors. Mm-hmm. I mean, you've had Annette, you have people like Miss Coco, just literally everybody along the way.
Beth Minardi.
And if you didn't have people, you went and you watched their videos, you read their books, you tried their stuff out. I mean, we had the mannequins at home that you would practice hair on. You braid it, you updo it. You just constantly went in and innovated, and it's cool to see you doing what they did for you now, for other people. It's cool to see you step into that role of mentor, because being able to talk to somebody who's at a top level of something and being able to get what their systems are, because that's what people don't understand, is that everything you do, especially in business, is a system. And the people who are doing things really well, the people who are making all the dollars, people who are having the cool clients, the people who are having a business that you'd want to run, the people who are confident, they have systems. Like, that's the only reason why all of it works. They are not just hem-hawing and hoping and just, well, it'd be nice if this happened. They're not. It's very much articulated out. It's very much something that they have thought about. It's all premeditated, and that's what we started when you were in beauty school. Is premeditation. We're going to build the business now, so that day one we're already more
ready
than ready
to go. Yeah, we just waited for that licensing when we're like, we're going and we're ready to like, launch. And one thing also to answer that question on like why now, I've had a couple of mentors or like mentees come into the salon over the last few years, and getting to educate them like one-on-one, in person, behind the chair, hands-on, where they're like taking notes and excited, and to see that passion again, like I want to be involved in that, because I remember how passionate I was, and at that time it was almost impossible to find real education. Now I think it's about finding aligned education with people who are operating in a way that you align with in your life that feels good, because there are a lot of people that go to work at 8 a.m. and they are done by 2 because they have to go pick up their kid. I will never operate that way. So I think you just have to kind of start looking for more of the authenticity within the education, and getting to mentor people in person, just like that, seeing them lit up and excited for it. And, honestly, the first one I mentored for 6 years, who's still in my salon today, just running her own business, her own everything. It's been incredible to watch. In the first 2 years of her working beneath me, beside me, I don't know, that sounds fucking weird, but like as my mentee, my apprentice and all of that, she was one of my very first clients when I was in beauty school. So it's a really cool journey of like me going to beauty school, her being my client while I was in school. Like I was practicing on her hair while I was literally in beauty school, and then her following me for years to get her hair done. And then one day she said, I want to do what you do. Like, you seem very happy. I went to college, I'm not happy, and I really want to do like what you do. And so that kind of just like sparked something in me, like, well, of course that would be amazing. Plus you're great at hair. You're very knowledgeable on trends, and you're always like braiding your hair. So like you would be perfect for that. So to get to watch Shelly walk through beauty school and apprentice with me for years, and build her own business and grow it and sustain it, and like work behind the scenes for Real Housewives of Dallas. Like that was her dream. I remember us like writing it down in her little journal, like what would be the ultimate hair success for you? And she's like, doing hair for the housewives. And she did that within the first few years of her career. And that little notebook that we wrote down her goals and her dreams and her ideas, we also wrote down all the tips and tricks that I was telling her in real time with all of my clients. I'm like, hey, this is what a base break is. This is your big money maker right here that's going to set you apart. Like giving her those like real time, not just like I'm teaching out of a book. I received that journal from her not too long ago, and I think that's what really inspired, like, here's all the wisdom from years of teaching and training. I'm now going to be able to share that with thousands of other people in a way that is fun and easy to digest, where you don't have to go to 10,000 years of school. I can get you the systems that are the most efficient and effective.
Oh, it's bringing me so many flashbacks, because I'm thinking about how it originally worked. And I remember you would get done with the salon. We would go on this long walk. We would talk about literally everything, and then we figure out how could the conversation have been better, how could the environment have been better, how could you make sure that they're knowing what to do when they get home. It's like there's so many layers on it, and then you start doing it, and you're like, was that successful? Did that not work? So we started experimenting so much, and then what ends up happening is that it starts working. Like we start doing enough things, eventually you're like, oh my gosh, this works. And then people that were around you were like, hey, so I heard you talking to your client about that thing. How do I talk to my client about that thing? It's just, it's so cool, because I know that this is one of those things that's really going to help a ton of people. It's the cheat codes I wish we had. If we'd had this, it'd be like, well, this is a lot easier. We can shortcut so many years off. It's so cool. So I want to ask you this though, because we've definitely admitted to the fact that this is a demanding industry. And the fact that you have to do more than hair. You have to be more than good at balayage. You have to be more than that. You can't just be about the scissors and the color. So what do you tell a person who is, maybe they're newer in their business, but they know that they want to build a big business, they're passionate about their career, but they have that doubt, and they don't have that confidence. They don't know, how am I going to be able to hold space for all these people? How am I going to be able to like really make this into something? Like, what do you tell that person who's like not so sure, who would be sitting on the fence saying like, I want to, but I don't know. I have my doubts. What do you say to them?
Yeah, I feel like just pulling one from Nike's book and saying, just do it. If you have that drive and the fear is there, then that is automatic confirmation that that's the direction you're meant to be headed, because it's outside your comfort zone. And the real truth is, the soft answer, besides like, just fucking do it, but like that's the real. But the soft answer is that, looking back over the last 20 years, I was never presented a client that I wasn't able to handle. And I wasn't presented with the clients that I got in year 15 that I was in year 1. So if you're just starting out and you're fearing those like 15-year, like, I'm gonna get this crazy client that has lice, or her hair falls out, or she sues me, or like whatever the crazy story is, that fear is keeping you from playing bigger and stepping into your purpose, then I encourage you to like take a deep breath and know that the lessons that are going to be presented, let me be very freaking clear. Like, you're not going to just be like, I'm going into business and I'm going to take a slow, easy approach and I'm not going to learn any lessons. Like, no, you are going to fry off hair. You are going to burn a client. You're going to stab them with your scissor by accident. You're going to do something weird, or you're going to spray them in the face with your freaking hose, like I did on day 1 of starting my own suite. Like, whoops, should probably hold the nozzle down when I turn it on. Good lesson to learn. You're gonna learn lessons, like the very important lesson I know of, to check your scissors before you actually snip. You know, that one time I thought I had blending shears but actually had regular scissors, not good. So you're gonna learn lessons. Let's just be honest about it. But the real truth is, you're never gonna be given a lesson or a client that's more than you can handle. You'll be given those bit by bit, and you'll build a solid foundation of confidence that allows you to recognize when fear shows up and be like, oh, I'm doing something big. I'm stepping outside my comfort zone. So I think if you are aware of the fear and you have that passion and the drive, then you're somebody who is willing, that I hope that you're someone who's willing to take that courageous leap and just say, I'm going to do it anyway, despite being afraid, because someone else did it and she was afraid, and she came from the trailer park and she didn't have a college degree, and she didn't, you know, all the things that we compare ourselves to other people. It's so important for you to recognize that if it's possible for one person, it's possible for anybody, and it just takes the belief in yourself. So whatever you've got to do to acknowledge your fears, say fuck them, and just do it anyway, is do that. And if it's hire a coach, I'm available. That's my real honest answer.
Yeah, I mean,
lessons are coming. It's just, are you willing? Are you gonna fucking step up to the plate?
Yeah, are you gonna fold? And that's the grit that the entrepreneur has to have, because no matter what journey you take in entrepreneurship, there's definitely gonna be times where you're second guessing yourself. There's definitely going to be times where you're like, is this going to work? And I mean,
after you put the color on is not the time to second guess. Just that was just coming through real clear.
Yeah, the big lesson here too is be an expert. Like, show up at your job as an expert. The more of an expert that you are, the more you're confident in what you can do and what your knowledge is about things.
Yeah, what is the fear? Like, get real granular with the fear. Like, is it a fear of success? Is it a fear of I don't know finances? Is it a fear of I'm not going to get clients? Like, get really clear on what that fear is so that you can find a positive solution to freaking bypass it. But if the fear is like a blanket, just like in general, like I'm terrified, like, okay, cool, but let's like break it down and get real specific.
Yeah, and I mean, that fear is going to be what controls your pocketbook. It's going to be what does or does not attract the ideal client that you actually want to sit, you know, and you have to decide who that ideal client is. I mean, it's such an important thing to be thinking about, like, who in the world are you actually showing up? What kind of hair do you even like doing?
Yeah, I'll never forget the time Chris said to me that I was going to be too cheap for somebody. Like, no matter what you set your prices at, no matter what those services are, no matter how high end the products that you sell, like, you are always going to be too cheap for somebody. And that was a really like, whew, coming from the trailer park, like, that hit me out of left field. Like, okay. Well, if that's the case, then why not decide from the beginning that I'm going to be a stylist that caters to that type of clientele? Now, I'm not saying that this is what you have to do, because you might live in the middle of nowhere like West Virginia, and like you're not in Dallas prices, right? The conversation would be a little bit different. But also, why the fuck not? Why not be a superstar in West Virginia? Like, I feel like anything is possible these days, especially like the more you believe in yourself. So yeah, I think it's just the times are so different from like what I would tell myself back then to what I would tell myself now. It's so much easier now, in my opinion. And okay, it's more saturated, but everybody needs their hair done, period.
Yeah, and you have access to clients that you could have never. I mean, we could have never had access to people in random states. I mean, they would.
Yeah.
I don't know how they would have found us, like just on the web page, but like they could have never seen your real work. They could have never interacted with like your face, because like you said, there was no video back then. Okay, so where at this point do you think the industry will start to turn to? Like, where do you think is it going to fall off? Is it going to jump forward? Like, how do you see hair changing, or how do you see like the lifestyle of the stylist changing? Like, where do you see that going?
Yeah, I mean, I can already see it in the salon suites that I am in. The stylist is not working nearly as much. They're not overworking like crazy amount of hours. I feel like the stylist is going to reclaim a little bit of that of their life again. I see wellness really being a massive role in the hair industry, because of all the burnout and the chemicals and all the things that we've gone through over the last few decades is like really taken a toll on us as an industry. And I think we're all starting to recognize that hustle culture and burnout is just like not sexy, and we're in the industry of beauty. So I think just the conversation with the other expert educators and industry leaders, and even my friend Elizabeth Fay, who's creating the Vitality Project that is putting wellness and just like wellness and education in beauty schools and in salons. Like, the conversation is there, Pivot Point is behind it. Like, brands are recognizing that mental health and advocating for our well-being is a top priority. So what I hope and what I see for the future are hopefully the same, and that is what I hope for is what we need, and that is more support from bigger brands. And that's why I love working with K18, because they truly do support the stylist in all realms, not just education, but also in personally, K18 sent me a freaking bouquet of flowers when Rupert passed away. Like,
it made me cry.
Like, what? That is the next level care from high level brands. So I really hope that more brands jump on board with the wellness movement, because we're not going to be an industry if we all burn out and we don't want to do it anymore. So I think that's where I see hair going. The other thing I see is a lot more collaboration. I see collaborations between brand and brand, or influencer and brand, but I really feel like more like salons and independent stylists and educators are going to be coming together to create collaboration over competition energy. And growing up in the hair salon and starting off, as a young in my 20s, it felt very competitive, and it felt very cutthroat and very isolated, where no one's giving out their information. And now I see, with so much online education and accessibility out there, more and more people are willing to open up and share. I've spoken for Don Bradley's Rock Your Business multiple times. I've educated for other educators in their programs, and I see them, doing the same for me as well. So it's really cool to see wellness really being on the rise, and a sense of community and connection. Because if you've been to a hair show, if you went to a hair show 15 years ago, it was like very cliquey. But if you go to hair shows now, it's so much more inclusive, and I think so many more people are being represented that they feel like this is a community I feel safe in. And I think that bringing that safety and inclusion back to stylists within our community is so important. We talk a lot about inclusion with our clients in our salon, but I think that also has to be reflected in how we support each other as educators.
That was one of the best. It's so cool to see that now. I mean, we're the kids on the block now. Back then
we growed up.
Yeah, and so like we're so many of the hair industry leaders are like around your same age. They're like friends in the industry, and some people have been there for a long time. I mean, Sam V has been passing the torch for a hell of a long time and showing up and representing. It's so cool that the new school it's in is all about the stylist. Not necessarily all about the business, but that's a big part too. So many people are getting wealthier in this specific industry. A lot of people making a lot of money here. There's a lot of money to be made because you're in a business that a lot of people want to be a part of. It's very exciting, looking beautiful. I mean, the beauty industry is enormous, and everyone knows that. So much of it starts with the hair, and then as you discovered, so much more of it goes on into what happens on the inside. Because if you can make a person look beautiful on the outside, and you can make them feel that beauty and agree with that beauty, I'm just like, oh my gosh, you look beautiful, and they're dismissive, but like, oh my gosh, you look beautiful, and they stand there and they own that. You know what it's like when they go on that job interview that next day? You know how they're still feeling confident as hell? The amount of people that I've seen get raises from being in your chair, just the confidence. They already had the skill. They already had the talent. They just didn't have the belief. And the styles, it's so
or the
important.
curls.
It's yeah. It's just there's something about when you look good. You enter a room differently. Like you feel differently about yourself. It makes you say different things. It makes you sometimes stand up for yourself in a different way. It's so important. I mean, hairstylists are my favorite people. I mean, I've been lucky enough to be around so many of them at this point, and it's just incredible. The heart and the soul, and the thing that's awesome at this point is being able to watch people actually take care of themselves, at the same time make an income that's like worth showing up for. Like where you can get excited, where you can take care of your family, where you can go on vacations, where you can buy the kind of stuff that you want, the kind of car that you want.
Yeah, I was just reading a statistic from Hairbrain that said in 2021, hair prices for balayage were like around $150 to $175, and now in 2024, you're easily paying up to $500 for a cut and color service. So, it's like twofold in that. It's like, cool, let's own our worth and our value and all the things. But the real truth is like our prices are going up behind the scenes. Like the rent, the foils, the gloves, good God, in 2020, like tripled in price. Like, so our fees are going up. So it's like this interesting, like from the outside, it looks like, oh, well, we're just raising our prices and we're owning our worth. But like, no, bro, we're keeping up with the times, because like if we don't, we're going to outprice ourselves. And, so I do love that we can make a lucrative income with this career and also make a massive impact. Like it's a win-win scenario. And like you said, hairstylists are your favorite people. And it's so funny because 10 years ago when I was stepping out from behind the chair to do more education on self-love and empowerment and coaching, hosting these retreats, I started attracting hairstylists that one, didn't know that I owned a hair salon or was in the hair industry. And that was when I realized like I can't get away from hair. Like hair is the foundation for why I am a credible empowerment coach and business leader. It is why I am good at what I do with holding space for women and the transformations, whether you're at my retreat or in my coaching or courses or anything involved in our education, is because of the 20 years of working behind the chair. So I'll never forget, a woman hired me off of a Pinterest ad for my full moon blog. She said, I'm a Pisces and I'm kind of woo-woo, and I was just looking for a woo-woo coach, and you're amazing, and I'm opening a hair salon and I need help. And I was like, well, do you know that I have a hair salon? And she was like, no, I didn't know that. So that's that pivotal moment in my mind where I kind of made the switch of like, okay, I've taught about self-love. I'm being known for, being a psychic medium and a spiritual teacher and healer. Like, okay, I've established myself. It was like I established self-love in Shine School. I established myself as this like independent educator that was outside of the hair realm. And then hair sucked me back in with all these stylists showing up at my goddess retreats. I mean, half the people that come to my goddess retreats end up being hairstylists, because it's just the realm and the industry that I've been in for so long. It's the people and the connections that I've made with other educators and influencers in the business. So it's like I couldn't get away from it, even though I did try. So to full circle be teaching a masterclass for stylists next week just feels like 20-year full circle moment.
Yeah, it's incredible to see you keep shining, and I love these continue to stay in this industry, and how, what we found out is that hairstylists are waking up.
Yeah.
They're really waking up to the
woo.
Yeah, definitely the woo, but the potentials of themselves.
Yes.
Hairstylists aren't looked at like, oh, just going to hairstylists. Like hairstylists has become an important person
it's the
in
therapist.
society. Yeah, it's because I think COVID proved to people like, hey,
we need our hair.
For one, you cannot do your own bangs at home. Please don't ever do.
Stop using box color.
But besides that, it's like, oh man, I remember the amount of people that reached out. I was like, I wish I could just give you a hug. Like I haven't seen you enough. Like
I had clients come to my house and just like pull up in their car and just hang out and talk to me, because they're like, I just need a little bit of your energy.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So what do you leave the stylist with? What do you tell a person who's jumping into this career, wants to make a big thing, and they're like this is their moment. You got something you can whisper in their ear.
Oh, have fun. Like, you're choosing to be in the coolest industry. I'm biased, obviously, but it is such an impactful industry that not only does make income and moves our culture and our society, but we are also the people that hold that space for grief and help you believe in yourself when you have dreams and goals that you're afraid to go after. Like, the hairstylist community is just a family. And that's what, the more events that I go to and the more I get to educate alongside other industry leaders, I am learning like this is truly a family, and it's a very small knit circle. We think it's huge, and I can't tell you how many like celebrities I probably put on a pedestal when I was a young stylist, like, oh my God, look at them. And like now I'm like literally having dinner with them, and they are genuine, loving, amazing people. And I think that if you're just getting started in this industry, like you're at a really cool time where all the cattiness I think is like in the past, and you're stepping into a limitless possibility of creativity and collaboration and magic. I just think like what a great time. It's like I'm leaving, but what a great time for you guys to step in. Like your mama's getting tired, she's ready to like take a step back and just tell you all the things to like help you get through the challenges that, let me tell you, will come up, because that's just the nature of expansion. You have to come up against your edge and these challenges that help you to grow to be who you are. And, to full circle back to the beginning of this conversation, the accolades that I feel most proud of are seeing the transformations of the women, but most importantly, seeing my own transformation and who I've become to be a person to hold space for others, and to take the value out of the money and out of the looks and out of all the physical attributes of the beauty industry, and really redefine what beauty is. And what my very first tagline on my blog was, beauty begins within, and that I still stand by that today.
Oh, it's beautiful.
I know, I'm so excited. And I was mentioning earlier, on October 7th, I'm doing a live masterclass for stylists. It's interesting because so many of our followers are all about that mindset, growth, expansion, spiritual, enlightenment. And we do bring a lot of hair educators onto the podcast, but this is the first time I've just gone full ham on like calling all hair besties. Like, where are you at? Let me know, because this is like I don't think it's like the one and done, but this is like the one time where I feel like I've got to talk to hair professionals. Like, where are my hair peeps at? So if you are in the beauty biz, it doesn't have to be hair, because if you're running your own salon suite for lashes or brows or any kind of med spa type experience, these tools and principles and systems are going to help you to scale your business without that burnout. So all you have to do to save your seat to this free masterclass, yes, you heard me, free, because I believe that education should be shared, and I'm going to give you the top tips that I think are going to help you scale without the burnout and give you the most effective system. All you have to do is go to brittanycarmichael.com/stylist-webinar, and that'll get you saved and registered for your free spot on Monday the 7th at 1 Central Standard Time. We're going to be going live, we as in me, all my spirit guys, my team, to help you really tap into the potential that you have behind the chair, not just the effectiveness in your client relationship and attraction in your marketing, but also the impact that you make in your life and how you structure and set up your boundaries and your self-care so that you can enjoy your life and your business as two separate things.
Oh, I love this. I mean, I can't wait for people to show up. I can't wait to see where all this goes, because watching stylists lock in, like watching them get the systems, like seeing them be a part of something and excited again, and not like just, you see the stylists at the end of the day and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm just slugging through this business and slugging through
drinking
this week.
Coffee.
Yeah.
My other hope is that stylists like trade the caffeine and the coffee for like some herbal tea, some water, some green juice. Like, let's like reclaim our power and our energy and stop depending on these external substances, and like take care of our body so that we don't break down. Cheers to that.
Have to.
Every hairstylist of all time is like cursing me right now, like, you, Brittany, no way. But it is true. Taking care of yourself, taking care of your health is ultimately how you build that wealth, because when you burn out, you have nothing to give. So this conversation has been so much fun. Like,
yes.
Any other questions or things that I should bring up and talk about in the hair world?
I mean, I feel like we could do 10 more podcasts on this. There's so many stories. I mean, I started thinking about all the experiences we had, like meeting Philip Wilson and his conversation with us that I think pivoted us in a new way. There's so many, so many things.
Philip Wilson told us that he collects Lamborghinis, and I was like as a as a hobby. And I was like, so that's the level of wealth we can create in this industry. And that definitely changed my mind. And that's when I invested in Color-Proof. And that was one of the first luxury lines that I carried in the salon, where one of the bottles of shampoo was over $100. And 10 years ago, that was crazy talk.
We nearly, from that conversation alone with him, this is I'm going back to how important it is to have mentors, how important it is to be around people who are successful, people who are like living a lifestyle that maybe you aspire to have, or they have a system that they've been working with. His conversation with us, and this was before we went in. It's just me and Britt standing outside, like in this little podunk actually area, and so we're standing out, and he's about to give the class, and we just have a conversation. Actually, he liked my legs. From what he was like, man, you got nice legs. But that conversation that we had right there almost doubled income in the next year. And it was because of just a few simple words he said. And that's the power of being around somebody, being around a master, or being around someone who has like really honed their craft in and figured out how to represent themselves in the world, and they're authentic and confident and all those kinds of things. And it's really infectious. I mean, it's almost like a good mind virus. It starts to just help you in so many ways, and you listen back to that and you just think, that was a moment.
Yeah.
That was a deciding moment that changed a lot of things.
That was definitely a turning point in opening my mind to possibility of what's available. So between you saying I was always going to be too cheap for someone, Philip Wilson collecting Lamborghinis, and then me making another courageous investment in buying the entire retail line of Color-Proof to sell when they only had 3 products on the shelf back then, that landed me in their education role and as an ambassador for the company. And I was top sales for Texas as a salon suite for the first few years of them being a company.
And that was you solo.
That was me by myself. And so when we talk about scaling without burnout, adding retail and educating your clients on the products that are going to create that longevity and the style and the art that you create for them is a massive part of the conversation that so many stylists shy away from.
Oh my gosh, so much to talk about on Monday, so much to continue to talk about.
So if you want to join us, make sure you sign up for this free class on how to shift from hustle to flow and scale your sustainable salon suite to 6 figures without the burnout. I hope to see you live in the class on Monday, and thank you so much for tuning into this very special episode where I get to share all things hairstylist related. Let us know how you enjoyed this by tagging us at the Elevated Life Club or hitting me up at The World by Brit. I want to know. I want to hear from my hairstylists. Let me know where you're at, how long you've been in your career, what's next for you, and if I can support you, then come join us in the masterclass. And I'll see you there. Peace.